Welcome back to Brothers Fab and Adventure.
Alright, we're going to go ahead and put the cage back on before I fit any new bars on or bend any new bars as well. So, here we go. I'm going to start working on the upper halo part for the rear half of the cage there. I got the bends all laid out on this upper rear halo bar. So this first bend starts at 28¼ inches and it goes to 68 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and start getting it bent. This bend starts at 55⅛ inches and goes to 68 degrees. Alright, that's 68 degrees here, maybe even 69. I'm going to go ahead and release the tension, verify spring back, and then finish it out. Now that I got that upper halo bent, I'm going to bend the two verticals that will connect it to the bumper. I got it all marked out and set to where the bend needs to start, and I'll just go ahead and take it to what it needs, which I don't even know what that is right now. The bend starts at 20 15/16 inch and it goes to 22 degrees, so I'll go ahead and get that going. It's a new day. I got the upper rear halo all notched. I just need to sand it down and it'll be ready to tack on. I also got the rear vertical bars all marked out to be notched, and then I also got a few more tubes cut, the two that form the triangle in the windshield opening, as well as the two diagonals that go in the upper rear halo. Just got to get the notches all marked and I can cut those out as well. I got a bunch of those notches all cut out. Now I'm going to give these windshield bars about 5 or maybe at most 10 degrees of bend, probably just 5, before I cut the notches on the end of them. Hopefully they'll clear the windshield a little bit better. I think it was going to be pretty tight before. I got the windshield bars all prepped, so I'm going to work on getting them in place and tacking them on. Now that this windshield bar is all tacked in, I'm going to start working on the rear hoop and vertical posts. Alright, I went ahead and tacked this bar where I like it, more or less. May need a little bit of adjustment. Haven't tacked the bottom yet, so got the ability to do that still. Got this one about where I like it too, just need a little bit of adjustment, and then I'll go ahead and tack that in there too. Alright, I think I got these diagonal bars where I like them, so I'm going to go ahead and tack them into place. Then I will probably adjust these verticals a little bit after I get these held in place. Probably tack these in place too, so that I don't need the verticals, and then I can kind of adjust it without any weight on it. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm going to start with tacking these. So yeah, I got a little bit of gappage under here, about a 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch that I'm going to need to address there. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop these tacks, readjust them, tack them back on. Alright, we got this last tube all measured and marked out. We're going to go ahead and get it bent up. First bend's going to be at 15 degrees, second and third bend will be at 75 degrees, and the last bend will also be at 15 degrees. I got the tube bent up for the lower rear portion, the dovetail tube, and I had a couple issues. The program was telling me I was supposed to rotate to -7 degrees on the second bend, then 0 degrees on the third bend, then +7 degrees on the fourth bend. Seemed kind of weird to me. I did the -7 on the second bend. I kind of thought that if I kept it at -7 on the third bend, that would be like 0, but really I should have gone back to 0. These compound bend things are a little bit confusing to me sometimes. That's why I tried to avoid designing much of that into the cage. Decided to do it with the windshield pillars, and that turned out actually pretty good, thankfully, but yeah, this one tripped me up a little bit, so I ended up with like 14 degrees of compound bend from one end to the other, and it also seems like it's a little bit overbent. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. This is inside of this tube. Something's overbent there. It's actually going to ride down in here somewhere, so it may line up a little bit better, but I've got basically about a fingertip worth of gap on both sides. As you can see, that side is bent up. This side is all touching. This side is not touching right there. Again, about a fingertip worth of gap there. Not 100% ideal there. My plan was always that I was going to hack these bars right where they intersect the vertical tubes here, because I want this middle bar in between the two vertical tubes to sit up a little higher. That way I can still use my tailgate, and I'm going to use a diagonal bar to tie them together so there's not T-junctions, as you want to avoid those in your cage design. At any rate, it should be okay. I'll be able to fix these problems because I'm going to be cutting this tube into 3 pieces anyway. That way I should be able to get rid of the compound bend that I have, and the slight bit of overbend will probably not be noticeable because the cuts are going to be slightly into the bend. I don't think it's going to be a real big problem, but we'll see what happens. As you can tell, the body does not match what the tube is doing here, and therefore I need to start working on the dovetail of the body to be able to fit this tube in. So I went ahead and I used the tube to mark out where it fell on the body to get my angles for the dovetail, and I transferred those marks from end to end. It basically starts at the corner here and it makes its way to a little further in than halfway on this guy right here. Nice little rust spot here where the cage originally tied into the body. It's going to be good to get rid of that pretty much. I'm going to start with cutting these corners. I didn't have them perfectly flush when I did it originally, so I'm going to clean that line up, transfer it around the corner, and then kind of diagonal at some point down to the tube here. So as you can see, we're getting this dovetail figured out. We're going to go ahead and get it tacked up in a few places, and then I'm going to move on to working on the tube and getting the other side going. Well, I think that should work, hopefully. I might add a few more tacks before moving on, but I think I'm pretty satisfied with it. I think I got this next tube right where I want it, so I'm gonna go ahead and tack it into place. Got this side all ready to go for the dovetail. Cut this wedge out of it so that can fold in like that. Took the corner, modified it a little bit, kind of flipped it around, and I'm about to start tacking it all back together. Sure that popped it. I got the other dovetail loosely tacked in, and I got that tube for that driver's side wrapped up. Then went ahead and took the cage off so that I didn't have to worry about it getting rained on while I was at work all week. So just about got it wrapped up. I still need to weld the inner fender a little more, obviously, but it's turning out pretty nice, I would say, for being kind of a smash and grab job here. Gonna go ahead and bring the cage back out and continue working on it.
Now for the fun of getting it back on.
Oh yeah, good times. I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting out the notches for the diagonal tubes that will tie the rear part of the cage to the main hoop of the cage. I got the notches all cut out for these diagonal bars. This side was a lot easier than the other side for whatever reason, probably because they're not exactly perfect, because of the compound bend that I ended up having when I bent this whole thing up at once. So I'll just get these fine-tuned up a little bit and they'll be ready to go, but like I say, I gotta weld that first, and then I'm gonna work on the windshield bar, extra windshield bars over here, which I'll show you in a second. This right here is going to be the next thing that I'm working on. I'm going to do a tube as an extra A-pillar basically that will also act as some extra protection for the windshield frame. Probably, I think, about a 30-degree bend up here is what it seems like. So I'll start working on the notch for this. And I've got a cutout for the notch for this. In my original drawings with Bendtech, there was no bend here, so that's kind of going to be winging it, but that seems to be a pretty straightforward notch. So. This tube is fitting pretty good here, so I think I'm going to start welding some pieces on. Start with getting the cage tacked back down to the rockers and the rear bumper. Then I'm going to go ahead and weld out the joints up there, and I'll start putting the new pieces on, like the one I just made there and the diagonals here. Got this diagonal bar looking pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and start welding it in. This can't get welded to here because this has to come off to get these bottom welds. So I'm just gonna tack it there for now. Maybe I'll give it a third one just to be safe while I weld this in. Top corner over here is a little more gappy than I would like, so I might have to pop it and rotate it a little bit. Probably get it to fit a little bit better, I guess. Pop some tacks, get it to fit better. So I'm gonna go ahead and do some more welding. Also work on fitting this other windshield bar up. Now I'm going to start working on some gussets, like the one that's going to tie this to this up here, and some up in the corners like there and there. For this joint right here, I want to connect the horizontal that goes across the tailgate to the tube that wraps around the side of the body here. Basically that's because it's not good to have a T-joint where one tube intersects another. If you have a good impact, it can bend one of the tubes. Like if this was hit this way, it could bend this tube here. So by connecting them like that, it's a little less like a T-joint. I'm also going to have one down to here somewhere, so it's kind of more like a pitchfork, and then instead of a T, less likely to bend, in my opinion, I think. At any rate, I've got this tube that I bent up, so I'm going to use a bent piece for this one because this corner is bent right here. And I think it'll look kind of cool. I got these two corner pieces cut out. I'll get those all prepped up and tacked on here, but first I'm going to cut a few more gussets out. Got a bunch more of these gusset tubes made here, so I'm going to go ahead and start putting them in. Guess these are all good to weld out now. This will probably be the final round of welding for these tubes. That's going to be all for this time. Stay tuned for part 3. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.